what did Calvin Coolidge say? He said, Christmas is not a time nor a season, but a state of mind. To cherish peace and goodwill, to be plenteous in mercy, is to have the real spirit of Christmas. That was really awesome, and that was really wonderful, and too many of us around this time of year don't feel that at all. We are just completely stressed out. There were even some surveys that I heard about earlier a couple weeks ago where people were happy about Christmas and putting up lights and everything, but they were totally stressed out about shopping. They were not looking forward to buying gifts for people. It was just a horrific, horrific hassle. And it's just, and I personally have felt that myself. I was eager to put up my Christmas lights on the day after Thanksgiving and have really enjoyed driving around and seeing everybody's lights, and it makes me happy and smile. But as far as going out and shopping, I haven't wanted to. Just the stress of other people buying me presents when I don't really even care about stuff, and buying presents for other people when they don't care about stuff. It's just ick. And Arthur Brooks's article, he had some really good tips about it. And one of the first things that he talked about was, and these are some philosophical things that don't just help us have a happy Christmas, but to have a happy life. And he said, first, collect experiences and not things. Create a Christmas tradition where my favorite Christmas tradition is that my nephew and I spend a day Christmas shopping together. We've done it every year for the last 20 years. Started when he was like 5, and now it's something we do, and it's my favorite day of the year because I just spend a day with my nephew walking around shopping malls, and we're buying presents, but it's more of the experience than the thing.
I started doing this thing about 8 years ago, I guess, where I went into truffle mode, and as soon as I learned how to make them, I thought, that's something that everybody in the family can do. We started doing name drawing because there just got to be so many of us on both sides, and so... But I still didn't feel like as though it was enough, and I wanted to do something, and I got into the truffle habit, and I was doing the math. It was this year 16 tins and 1,147 truffles, actually 45 because I ate 2. But that said, it's an opportunity for me to take some time, and while I'm making them, think about the family, and so it's not an expensive gift. It's not anything fancy, but I spend a lot of time thinking about the family and the stuff that we've done and enjoying the memories. And I started getting requests now. The families come to expect it, and that's one of my favorite things. Even though it's difficult, it's one of my favorite things to do during the holidays.
Do you have members of your family help you and work with you? So do you make it a whole family day together, or is that Fishy's day to herself?
I try, but my family is more interested in consumables than in the workable part, so it's probably best that I don't get that much help.
Otherwise, the total volume produced would be considerably less.
Yes, it's a little bit hard on the productivity.
And what's really great is that you document and share your techniques with everybody, because I've seen that on Google Plus the last couple of years. This year you filmed and showed your technique for dunking them with the alternating forks and stuff. So you're sharing the abundance and the experience with people, which is really, really pretty cool.
Give me some truffles. Just give me the truffles. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Am I the only one who's been totally put off by all of the materialism and shopping this year? I mean, it's getting worse every year, I think.
I've been put off for many years, and it's about 10 years ago I started trying to steer my family towards a more conservative Christmas, in that people were spending money they didn't have on stuff that people didn't want. And we've gone through phases of Christmas where we limited gifts to no more than $10 unless you wanted to make it. And those were really fun Christmases with the handmade gifts. And still there were people who got very stressed out that they felt uncomfortable unless they could buy you something.
It's finally I have the financial ability to be able to give gifts. I find myself that it's well, I have the ability to give to others, a gift, whether it be one or a couple. And for myself, I rather enjoy the fact that I'm finally in a place that I can live that part of the American dream, being able to give those gifts to others. So as much as I do really like the article by Arthur Brooks, and I think that there's more to it than just simply materialism, and I think that we've gotten into materialism far too much in this nation, I also know that my own path, I was able to step away from materialism because I didn't have, and so I learned to enjoy what I didn't, learn to enjoy the experiences, but at the same time, there's also the part of, what we love about this nation is our material successes and being able to bestow gifts to others that we care about. And I have to say, I really like that part of Christmas. So there you go.
I was very inspired by it. I actually went out and purchased several monks of my own in response to the thing. It was wonderful, and I mean, they don't do much. We use one as a lamp, but it meant a lot to me. No, look, I think it's great. I think it's wonderful because I totally agree. If you are, there's nothing wrong with things. There's there's something wrong in needing things. I always talk about, God, the giver, and the creation, the creator and the creation, the giver of the gift, the provider, the provision. And my question with, people is always, if you're a Christian, which one do you need? What do you rely on? Do you rely on the provision? Do you rely on the candy from the sky coming down and making your life better? Or do you turn to Him? And the same thing is true even setting God aside, the same thing is true in our relationships. What matters to you? The things that your husband or your wife does for you, the things your kids do for you, or them?
When I was a teenager, about 10 families or so in my neighborhood got together to do Sub for Santa for some families from the poorer neighborhoods of our city, and I'm not sure exactly how we got the names or anything, but we found out some things they needed, like coats and shoes and pants and things like that. And then we also went out and got a bunch of fun things, toys, bikes, rollerblades, skateboards, that type of stuff. We packed the cars. Everyone had SUVs, and we packed those up with all the toys and drove down to their neighborhood to deliver them. And it was a really cool memory to see the looks on their faces and how grateful they were, especially the parents, and seeing kind of the tears in their eyes. And I also remembered that their little front room was packed literally from the floor to the ceiling, and it covered half of the room. We just had, there were so many gifts there for them. It was kind of cool. I mean, it was definitely overkill, but I'm sure it made them happy. They probably shared with all their friends, and that was one of my favorite memories. I don't really remember what I get for Christmas most of the time. Most of the time I don't remember what I give for Christmas, but that one really stuck out to me because we had an opportunity to go to a family that really needed help and not just give them the things they needed, but a lot of toys they want and kind of anything that they could dream of. So that one, I still remember that every Christmas, and I wish that's a tradition that we kept up.
There's something that I like to do that I think is a good Christmas gift, is to write a letter of affirmation to people, to point out why they're important to me and important to others, their positive traits and things like that. I think those are valuable, and they just cost a little bit of time.
I think that's a great idea. Something that strikes me a little bit funny that we're having this conversation is that if you were to look at this from the left's perspective, when they think of conservatives, when they think of us, aside from, picking on us because we like to have these holidays, we like to have the traditional side of things, we like to, have the family, all that fun stuff. The other way they portray us is as the sort of Scrooge McDucks, in love with wealth, in love with, material goods and items, and that's not what I'm hearing here. I mean, I have my iPad, and I have my Game Boy, and I have my Beats by Dre and stuff going on all over here, but I'm not hearing. That's not what this conversation is. That's not what you guys are saying. It's not what we're saying, and I think that's interesting. I don't think I don't think that we get that out there enough. That these are really what we care about. These are the things that we find important and meaningful, and it's not the stereotype that the left likes to portray us as.
Well, I gotta say that I was traumatized at about 5 years old. Santa brought me a Noah's Ark set, and it was a beautiful Noah's Ark set, and it broke the first day, and my parents told me Santa had to take it back to the North Pole and fix it, and he never sent it back. And for years, like 20 years, there was never another Noah's Ark under the tree for me. And when I was 25 or so, one appeared under the tree. It was in miniature now, but it worked, and it had all the animals. And so Santa took 20 years to make good on his promise, and I think it scarred me for life.
But that's a lesson in.
Wait! I gotta jump in. I'm gonna jump in for a second here. I'm sorry, Leslie. I gotta jump in. I find it interesting that she says it took her 25 years. These things take time to repair, and the reason I mention that is because as we're having this meeting, I'm actually putting together a scale model. So, I just want you to know that repairs are not something you do overnight. I mean, this model has sat in a box for decades, actually, and I'm finally now being able to sit down and put it together. So I don't think of it as a tragedy as so much as somebody actually took 25 years to be able to repair that and get it back to you. I'm just letting you know that that's a lot of love over several decades to say, hey, look, I know it broke when you were 5, but and you're 30 now, but here you go, and I love you anyway, and it's in miniature, but there you go.
So I'm confused. Are you an elf, Peter?
We're much taller than you realize, huh?
That's what I'm saying.
He has been outed.
And also don't live at the North Pole.
Well, you would assume that they have to.
Come on.
They have to
Can't do
outsource.
anything when your fingers are just like back and forth. You got to move to a warmer climate. I'm just saying.
What it is
And
that
Santa is
Texas
a genius. He lives in Texas.
has such a good business climate. Of course, it makes more sense to put the labor in Texas. It makes more sense all the way around.
Most
And you know how easy it is to get day labor when you need it?
Most elves now work in slave shops and sweatshops in the Orient. So things have changed. It's all shifted, just so you know. So don't look up north. Don't look up north.
That Santa, he is just a terrible, terrible person. It's just...
Or genius. Depends on how you look at it.
Sure. One way or the other.
I always admired the cheap labor aspect of it. I always admired him for...
What did I just say about trying to shake the stereotypes, Andy?
Look, I grew up a Marxist Democrat, okay? I shed it. I'm free now, all right? I exploit people, even people I don't know. I'll just be walking down the street just pointing at them, yelling, I'm exploiting you. They have no idea what I'm doing.
Sure they do. You just told them you're exploiting them.
And they just walk away. It doesn't really make much impact, but I still feel good. I feel good.
Had the Democrats roundly won at a midterm, even then during the lame duck session when control had not changed, they would be acting as if they already controlled the Senate. And our guys refused to yet act like winners.